A few weeks ago, you had an opportunity to compete in Paris at the Masters event. A lot of people that's kind of like an unfamiliar event here in the U.S. Please fill us in.
Yeah, so the Masters is the event, and they pick the top guys from every zone, and we go out and we compete in kind of a 5-touch format, like a pool system, and the top 4 guys advance, and we do DEs, and it's it's just again speaking to the level of competition in France. And unfortunately, every competition isn't held like this, as it absolutely should be. But it's spectacular. You go out, it's smoke machine, come out from behind the stage. You're separated from the fans, and you're doing your thing, and you're a real like sports athlete. And it has thousands of people there to see it, and that's an awesome feeling, an awesome environment to fence in, and something that every athlete kind of adores. And there's a big cash prize, so it's kind of got everything you want to do. And the closest thing to relate it to is in tennis. They have that ATP final where they take the top guys and they do a little pool, and then they play off with each other. And that's exactly what it's like. And it's the top guys from every division. And I went out and I just really wanted to show what I'm made of and perform the way I wanted to perform and get the crowd into it and have a good time. And I did, and it was all 3 of those things. And it's awesome. Fencing in France is awesome. I think that it's something that we can look forward to as athletes in the sport that's different than what we usually get into at competitions. And I think that a big part of like me explaining and getting the idea about it, and I brought like a GoPro out there and spreading the word, is if you go to my Instagram or you go to any of our social media, it's covered in fencing. And it's not just covered in fencing as in like covered in just like kind of random fencing pictures or like blurry stuff. It's really covering the sport and really showing it in the ultimate light, because there's a big difference. And what we need to remember as athletes is there are cadets and there are juniors, and they're very important, but it's not seniors. It's just not the same thing. You don't go see a D-League basketball game. You just don't do it. You don't pay big money to do it, and it's not going to happen. And that's the same thing with fencing. You have these guys who are professional athletes, and they're separating themselves at that competition, and it's a beautiful thing to see, and we all get on board with it, and we have a really good time with it. So if you're ever in France, or you ever hear about a competition like that, and hopefully there's some more popping up pretty soon, then I would definitely go see it. I mean, I would go see it in Another Weapon, and I think it's important, and I think that the FIA is doing a good job of making sure all the Grand Prix circuit is starting to kind of like look similar and be televised and put on Eurosport. And I think our sport has a long way to go to where it really presents the sport at its best. And you see competitions like Paris, but then we have competitions that aren't the same as that. And it's the same as any athletic events, but it's massive for the sport to kind of present the best like that. And I can't thank them enough for doing it. I think it's a fantastic event, and I think that it should be every kid's dream to go to that competition. And it's awesome to walk out on that stage.
And you talk about a few things. Not only the presentation of that event, how well they execute on making all the athletes appear as great as they really are.
Yeah.
But also you mentioned it's the best in the world. It's representation from many of the best zones, and you have some of the best that would appear in the top 8 at any World Cup. How did this Paris Masters event compare to the other Paris Grand Prix or World Cup, which you also won?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different feeling. So for you as a kid growing up, like the competition to go to is Paris. They had DVDs out on it. It was always the one that you saw everywhere. It was the one that you kind of imagined yourself at. It was like the thing that I always wanted to go to. I always wanted to win Paris. I mean, that was it. That was like the highest of the season. So you had all the other competitions, but Paris was just something else. And that's because of the presentation they put on there, and the way they treat their athletes, and the way that the competition's held. I mean, it's just such a bigger stage. And really, it's like you have like World Championships, you have Paris World Cup or Grand Prix, whichever one it is, and then you have the Olympic Games. And those are the 3 biggest stages of fencing. So to kind of put my mark out on there and be the first American to win Paris was an incredible feeling. To get my face up on the wall like that with those great fencers that I've admired for a really long time, it's just something different. It's something that I always felt like is breaking a boundary for myself. Was this that if anything, I look back on it and like see this year as kind of me like putting the work in and like understanding the challenges that it takes to be a professional athlete. You know, like there's so many things that go into it, so many things that are just looked over by most people, and that's that kind of mentality and that kind of change, that kind of like such intense focus on the details that gets you up on the wall like that and makes you perform at such a high level consistently. And so for me to compete in Paris and to win it like that was something that I felt like was an accumulation of work and kind of like a milestone. And then going to Paris again, coming back to Paris and competing at the Masters was kind of me being like, you know, for me meant something so much more because my season's been so much more controlled, you know, so much more of a presenting myself in such a dominant way that going back there and being like, look, like you're one of the best guys now and this is your stage. You're no longer like the underdog, like the guy from America who comes because he does well in Pan Ams. It was like you're really competing with all these guys. And then to kind of go out and have fun and win it and do it flashily and like have fun and cheer at the crowd and all that stuff was, you know, it's unbelievable. It's a dream come true. And you know, now it's all about keeping that consistency up and you know, working really, really hard.
Well, it's awesome to hear about that excitement and you sharing it, but also how amazing that environment is, and hopefully we can see more of that in not just fencing, but specifically here in the U.S.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Race, and best of luck going forward.
See you guys.